7 spine-chilling Family Dollar secrets exposed, terrifying haunts and cursed finds you never knew. Laura's heart raced as the overhead lights flickered ominously, illuminating the narrow aisles of the Family Dollar in harsh, fluorescent tones. Shadows lurked at the edges, writhing like restless spirits. Whispers echoed, crawling under her skin, filling her with dread. She couldn't shake the feeling that tonight, something was terribly wrong. As she moved through the store, the buzzing of the fluorescent lights grew louder. Then, without warning, a shelf of household goods collapsed with a heart-stopping crash, sending plastic bottles and cardboard boxes scattering across the floor. "Just a shift-end mess," she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper, but a shiver racked her body. There it was again, a soft, high-pitched giggle, flirtatious and eerie, drifting past her ear like a forgotten prayer. She steadied her trembling hands, but panic tightened her throat. Was it just insomnia playing tricks on her? Focus, Laura. Don't let it get to you. Hours later, when she finally trudged home, her mind was clouded with anxiety over bills and the boiling question of what to feed Jake for breakfast. The weight of exhaustion pulled her down like a heavy coat. But once inside their small living room, the shadows felt alive, creeping and shifting in the corners, beckoning her to listen. The air thickened, cradling secrets meant to stay hidden. "Mom?" Jake's voice broke through her reverie. He stood at the edge of the kitchen, his eyes wide and fearful. "I don't want to go back to that place. I feel watched." Laura's heart sank. A cold sweat slid down her spine. "What do you mean, babe?" "I dunno, it's like I can feel eyes on me, even when you aren't looking," he said, his voice trembling. She wanted to comfort him, say something reassuring, but what did she have to offer? An empty promise? The mundane realities of their twisting, struggling lives closed around them like a vice, making it hard to breathe. Panic struck when, after school the next day, Jake never came home. Laura's mind raced, relentlessly retracing their steps, every moment bursting with dread. The familiar roads turned dark and menacing, shadows clawing at her heart. She had to find him. Compelled by instinct, she rushed back to the Family Dollar, convinced that the ominous whispers bore some connection to her son's disappearance. As she entered the store, the bright lights felt more like a trap than a sanctuary. Each aisle was filled with mundane items that suddenly felt sinister, ghostly dolls perched on the shelves, old photographs that seemed to follow her every move. Laura felt a shiver crawl up her back. This place was imbued with something dark, something buried deep within Maplewood's history. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Laura turned the corner near the back, she heard it again, a haunting whisper that gripped her very soul. "Mommy, help." The lights stuttered, and she felt a rush of cold air, like a hand brushing past her. It sent her spinning. A fleeting shadow darted down the aisle, disappearing into the dark. Time raced away from her, she knew she was running out of it. What lurked here, in the fluorescent abyss, was far worse than she dared imagine. She had to find Jake, but would she escape the malevolence that prowled these aisles first? The fluorescent lights flickered violently, bathing the aisles in a staccato rhythm that felt like the pulse of the very store itself. Laura's breath quickened as she followed the shadow, desperately searching for any sign of Jake. "Jake," she called out, but the voice echoed back to her, twisted and mocking in the silence. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of dust and something more metallic, blood. Panic coursed through her veins as she stumbled over something cold and hard on the floor. She flashed a light from her phone and gasped. A small, weathered toy car lay there, cobalt blue with deep scuff marks. It was Jake's favorite. Her heart sank, and she could feel the world closing in. "Jake!" She cried again, louder this time, her voice reverberating off the shelves filled with oddities that felt wrong to ignore. The dolls stared at her, their glassy eyes holding secrets of the past. "You're playing a trick on me, aren't you?" She wished it were true, but deep inside, she felt the truth creeping closer, a haunting presence lingering in the shadows. As she pressed deeper, the whispers intensified, morphing into a swirling cacophony that danced around her ears. Words emerged from the madness. "Help us remember," trapped Laura's heart pounded. Her own memories started drifting as if they too were being pulled away into the store's abyss. The lights dimmed and flickered again, and she saw a figure in the distance, a small silhouette obscured just inside the aisle. "Jake?" She hesitated, then picked up her pace, fear overriding reason. As she came closer, the figure turned, revealing a face that was not Jake's, but that of a child with sunken features and hollow eyes. "Help us, Mommy," the child whispered, their voice a delicate echo that sent chills sliding down her spine. Their mouth curled into a grin, revealing too many teeth, sharp and jagged like a wolf's. Laura stumbled back, colliding with a display filled with cleaning supplies, knocking over sprays and sponges as her heart raced. "No!" she gasped, shaken by the dark allure of the creature before her. "Join us," it whispered, beckoning her with bony fingers that seemed to stretch unnaturally long. The shadows swirled and closed in, she could feel something prickling at the nape of her neck, almost like a breath cold and taunting. In her panic, Laura filled her lungs with air and screamed, "Where is my son?" The words tore from her, raw and desperate. The creature laughed, a sound that echoed hauntingly. "He's lost like all of us." Terror surged anew. Her grasp on reality wavered, and she felt the floor beneath her shift as if it were alive, shifting from solid ground to something other. Desperate, she backed up, trying to escape the darkness that curled and reached for her. The aisles seemed to stretch out infinitely, each turn leading deeper into chaos. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted, shaking the shelves and sending items tumbling down. Laura spun around to find a door at the far corner marked exit, bathed in a hopeful glow. With every ounce of strength, she bolted toward it. But then, she heard it again, clearer this time, the whispering chorus that permeated the air around her. "Stay, we want you here forever." As her hand grasped the cold metal of the door handle, Laura hesitated. A chilling fear gripped her. What lay beyond might be worse than what she faced inside. Yet, she had to make a choice, push through to what might be an escape or allow herself to succumb to the malevolence of the darkness closing in. The decision hung heavily in the air as the whispers grew louder, wrapping around her, suffocating hope. And in the chaos, she made a choice she would live to regret what awaited her on the other side. Would she find Jake or something far, far worse? The door swung open with a soft creak, revealing only darkness beyond. Laura's heart raced as she hesitated, the pale light from inside the store doing little to illuminate the vast unknown that lay ahead. The whispers receded, leaving an eerie silence that pressed down on her, heavy and suffocating. "Jake!" she called again, her voice now barely a whisper. The term echoed emptily, swallowed by the void on the other side. With a sudden burst of panic, she stepped through the threshold. The feeling of stepping into a deep well overwhelmed her, and she stumbled forward, reaching out for anything solid. The air was different here, cool and stale, carrying a faint whiff of decay and forgotten memories. Counter to the unrelenting fluorescent buzz of the store, this world felt timeless and still. Shadows flickered at the corners of her vision, darting away just as she turned her head. She shivered. The light from her phone illuminated a long corridor stretching out into the dark, walls lined with peeling paper and ancient, dusty frames that held nothing but blackness. Laura felt her palms sweating against her phone. "Come on, Jake," she murmured, forcing herself to move deeper into the unknown. Just as she stepped forward, she heard a soft giggle in the distance. A child's laugh. Relieved yet on edge, she followed the sound, her bare feet whispering against the cold floor. With each step, the giggle morphed into a chortle, each echo feeding an odd mixture of hope and dread. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a room where faded toys sat in haphazard piles, each one covered in dust and forgotten by time. A tiny table, adorned with miniature chairs, stood in the center, an eerie playset, abandoned but somehow beckoning her. "Jake?" she whispered, scanning the dim space. "Are you here?" The corner of the room caught her eye. Something moved, a figure flitting in and out of the shadow. "Mommy." The voice was light and cheerful, so familiar. Laura's heart jolted. It was undeniably Jake's voice. But before she could call out, the fluttering figure turned and froze. The moment felt frozen in time as she gazed at a spectral image, a small boy, but his features were unnaturally blurred, as though the air around him was distorting. "Come play," he sang, the words dripping with naive delight that chilled her to the bone. Instinct kicked in, and she stepped back, searching for an exit. But the doorway had vanished. Panic surged again, her breathing quickened, sharp gasps escaping her mouth. "Jake? Where are you?" The laughter and playful whispers surrounded her, filling the room, echoing off the walls. It morphed into a cacophony of voices chanting her name. "Laura, Laura, come and play, help!" She screamed, her voice engulfed by the laughter that began to crescendo into an unsettling frenzy. Desperate to escape, she turned and hit a wall, feeling the paint peel away under her touch, revealing something darker beneath, a shadow lurking just out of sight. "Stay," echoed from behind her, the word curling like smoke over her senses. Something cold grasped her wrist, icy fingers worming their way around her hand. She screamed, the sound raw and filled with dread. The laughter morphed suddenly into something unrecognizable, warped and sinister. "Join us," a chorus sang, voices blending and overlapping, creating an unholy symphony of despair. Laura felt her resolve wavering, the shadows pulsating, pulling her in a gentle but inexorable current toward the heart of darkness. Her phone flickered, the light fading, but in that moment, she glimpsed movement, a figure darting between the shadows, the same familiar shape she longed for. "Jake!" But the laughter changed again, echoing chaos as all the shapes melted into the wall of darkness surrounding her. A wave of dread washed over her, tightening around her chest like a noose. She was trapped, ensnared in a world where time itself twisted and reality unraveled. Was there any hope of escape? Would she ever find Jake, or had she already lost him along with her own fate? The icy grip around her wrist tightened. And in the suffocating silence, she could only hope as she heard one final echo, "Forever." The grip around her wrist was relentless, like a serpent wrapping itself tighter for the kill. Laura's heart hammered in her chest, a frantic drumbeat against the overwhelming silence that screamed through the darkness. She could almost feel the chilling breath of 1,000 unseen eyes hiding in the shadows, waiting. "Let go of me!" she shouted, yanking her arm, but it only tightened. The laughter roared around her, growing louder, filling her with a thick dread that suffocated any remnants of hope. The voices whirled in and out of her consciousness, mingling with the raspy breaths of the darkness that pressed against her from all sides. "Laura, Laura, join us," she spun, trying to find a face in the dark, trying to make sense of this nightmare. Desperation clawed at her throat as she staggered backward. Would she ever see Jake again? The very thought sent icy fingers skimming through her spine. The room began to pulse, shadows flickering as if the walls were alive and hungry. The only source of light flickered once more, illuminating a path behind a tattered drape hanging near the far wall. Her instincts screamed to run, to find safety. She tore herself from the icy grip and bolted toward the drape, nearly tumbling over discarded toys as she went. The laughter crescendoed, mirroring the frantic staccato of her heart. As she ripped the drape aside, cold wind rushed past her face. Beyond was another corridor, narrower, with a flickering bulb at the end swaying ominously. Each step into the corridor echoed, the floor creaking beneath her feet, louder and louder, drowning out the maniacal laughter behind her. "Jake!" she cried, her voice cracking. The flickering light cast distorted shadows that twisted and curled as if reaching out. Fear spiked each time she glanced behind her, half expecting a dark figure to emerge, but nothing came. Finally, Laura stumbled into a small, dimly lit room. Old photographs adorned the walls, each one a capture of the past, families smiling, children playing, all with the same unnerving blurred quality that she had seen before. She shuddered, the weight of sadness crashing into her. "Help?" she whispered, but the word hung in the air, void and unanswered. In the corner of the room stood a wooden rocking horse, still and waiting. Her attention fell onto it, heart racing, barely breathing. It seemed to vibrate softly, as if sensing her presence, a forgotten relic yearning for a child's touch. With a shuddering breath, Laura approached, glancing back to make sure she wasn't followed. But she was not alone. From behind the horse, another blurred figure emerged slowly, the edges of its form shifting like smoke. "Mommy, play with me." The voice was Jake's, but wrong in every way. Each word dripped with something dark, a naivety unraveling into sinister intent. "Jake?" Laura's voice trembled as she reached for him, but the figure began to dissolve, its body melting like wax. "No, come back." Panic clawed at her throat as she lunged forward. But in that moment, the laughter erupted again, louder, merging with the sinister whispers. The walls shook, shadowy fingers stretching out as the reality of her situation crashed down. Join us forever. With that, the ground beneath her seemed to give way, and she fell, deeper into the abyss as darkness consumed her. And just before the world closed in entirely, she thought she heard a cry, a voice calling through the madness. "Mommy!" Suddenly, a ferocious, blinding light engulfed her, pushing back the dark and revealing. Laura gasped, awakening as if pulled from a dream, but it wasn't over. She found herself in an unfamiliar room, the air thick with tension. Tommy, the store manager, stood there, pale as a ghost, staring at her in horror. "They're back," he murmured, trembling. They've never left. What exactly had awakened with her? Who, or what, were they? Laura sat up, her heart racing, breathless from the terror still gripping her. "What do you mean, they're back?" she whispered, barely able to formulate the words around the tightness in her chest. The lights around her flickered on and off, casting strange shadows that danced along the walls. Tommy's eyes were wide, a mix of fear and disbelief. "The children, they never left this place. They linger waiting." His fingers fidgeted nervously at his sides. "You were their last hope." "Hope? For what?" She tried to make sense of his words, desperate for clarity. Tommy took a shaky breath, glancing toward the corner of the room as if something was lurking in the shadows. "For someone to play with them," he said, his voice a hushed whisper. "To join them, to become part of their family." A chill ran down her spine. She pushed herself off the table, her legs shaky on the cold floor. "But they're dead, right? They can't hurt us." The uncertainty of that statement hung in the air. "They're not dead in the way you think," he replied, shaking his head. "Their spirits are trapped, but they have power. Whoever awakens them becomes prey." Laura felt the weight of that realization settle like a leaden block in her stomach. "What do we do? How do we escape?" The shadows seemed to grow heavier, pulsating, narrowing in as dread formed a knot in her throat. "There's something in the back room, a seal that keeps them contained," Tommy said, voice dropping to an urgent whisper. "If we can break it, it might send them back. But it comes with a price." "What kind of price?" Fear twisted the edges of her sanity. He hesitated, his gaze darting around the room. "We need to confront them. They won't let us go without a fight." A resounding crash echoed from the other side of the room, making Laura jump. The laughter she had heard before started to bubble up from the shadows again, taunting, teasing, growing closer. "Join us." "No." She backed away, pressing herself against the wall. The shadows slithered forward like liquid night, hundreds of eyes glinting ominously in the half-light. "We have to move now," Tommy urged, grabbing her arm and pulling her toward the back of the store. They dodged past shelves lined with empty boxes and warped toys, hunting for the door that led to the back room. "Don't look back. Just keep going," he yelled, but Laura couldn't help it. The laughter increased, wrapping around them like a thick fog. "Jake!" she called out, desperation clinging to her voice like the shadows clung to the walls. Then she heard a soft, crumpled voice beneath the din. "Mommy, where are you?" "Jake!" Her heart leapt at his familiar calls, each word wrapped in pain. They stumbled through a door, breathless. The air was stifling, oppressive. Rusted chains hung from the ceiling, remnants of a bygone era. In the center, a massive circular seal adorned with grotesque symbols pulsed softly, as if alive. The walls buzzed with energy, crackling in time with her frantic breaths. "This is it!" Tommy shouted over the cacophony. "We need to break the seal to free ourselves. Free or join." The voice seeped from the edges of the dark, wrapping around them with a sinister promise. As he reached for a crowbar stashed nearby, the shadows surged, twisting and writhing, forming an ominous shape. Laura's eyes widened as the outline of children emerged, eyes glimmering like spectral fires. "Play with us," they chorused, lips curving impossibly into smiles. Tommy swung the crowbar, striking the seal with a brutal clang, but it only enraged the forms crowding around them. They converged, hands reaching out with desperate fury. "Laura! Now!" he shouted, his voice cracking like a whip. With her pulse racing, she grasped the crown jewel of the dark power cradled in her heart. "Get back!" she screamed as she stepped in front of him, the shadows clashing against her resolve. In that moment, she felt the truth within the darkness pull her forward. Her next choice would seal their fate. Would she harness their power or devour whatever remains tethered to her soul? And then, just like that, the laughter wrapped tightly around her once more, drowning out every thought. What will she choose? Only time would tell. The air thickened, wrapping around Laura like a noose. She could feel the weight of the children's dark presence pressing against her, but the power within her surged in a tide of adrenaline. Her heart pounded like a distant drum, each beat echoing in the silence, and she knew they were waiting, hungry. "Tommy! We have to do this!" she yelled, her voice cracking. She stepped forward, a desperate shift separating her from him, the seal pulsating ominously beneath her feet. The shrieks of unearthly laughter teased her ears, weaving through the oppressive gloom. "Don't be a fool," Tommy retorted, sweat glistening on his brow as he raised the crowbar again. "If we break that seal, we're inviting them in. Don't you get it?" Beneath the surface of her rising panic, a sliver of resolve sharpened her focus. "They're already here." With a trembling breath, she reached within herself, feeling the connection to the looming shadows. Were they children or something far worse? The answer danced just out of reach. The seal depicted faces twisted in torment, anguished screams carved into the very fabric of concrete. "You'll be with us forever." A chorus of giggles echoed dangerously close, their twisted joy brushing against her skin. "Move away from it." Tommy's voice split through her thoughts, but his back was pressed against the wall now. The shadows lunged forward, undulating like dark waves determined to claim their victim. Laura hesitated, the line between her reality and the children's screeches blurring. Jake's voice pierced through, "Mommy." A strangled cry caught in her throat. Was it truly him? The thought of her son ignited fury and desperation. For him, she would risk everything. "Hold on!" she shouted, determined, as she lunged towards the seal. Tommy lunged after her but stumbled, shock written across his face. "Laura, no!" With hands trembling, she pressed her palms against the cold surface, feeling the pulse of the dark, the power thrumming beneath. She shut her eyes, blocks of fear mixing with illusions of hope. "I'm here," she cried, her voice echoing defiantly into the nothingness. "I'm not afraid of you." The laughter stopped abruptly. Silence fell. The air turned icy, and a tension coiled tighter around her throat. For a moment, she thought she'd broken through. Was the darkness gone? Then the silence shattered. The children's ghastly faces contorted into a mix of rage and despair. "Join us! Join us!" they howled, ripping through the silence in a wave of ferocity. Their icy fingers grasped at her, pulling with a relentless hunger, trying to drag her into their world. Tommy yelled her name, panic coating every syllable. "Don't listen to them. They're manipulating you. I'll never join you," she screamed. The energy surged again, lighting her fingertips as chaos erupted around them. Shadows writhed like serpents, entangling them in a desperate dance of horror. The seal grew hot against her skin. "Laura!" The pain in Tommy's voice snapped her focus. She opened her eyes, locking on the seal. It trembled, sending out waves of power that flickered like lightning. Without thinking, she pushed harder, determined to break free from this cycle. The grotesque faces twisted in rage, accusing and pleading at once. But deep within, an ember of pure instinct ignited. The choice lay clear: break the seal or succumb to the darkness. As she felt the forces shifting around her, she screamed, "I choose to fight. For Jake." Then everything erupted in a blinding light. A deafening roar filled the room. Darkness wrapped around them like a vice, pulling, tearing at the fabric of reality. Tommy fell to his knees, hands over his ears. Shadows exploded outward, swirling in a chaotic storm of despair and laughter, mixing in an eerie symphony of anguish. In that instant, she perceived through the chaos a familiar face, a boy no more than 7, eyes wide and sorrowful. "Mommy, help me," he begged. The pulse of the seal synchronized with the chaos, time unraveling in a web of decisions. Would she let the darkness consume her, be consumed by the false promise of family? "I won't abandon you, Jake," she shouted, lifting the ultimate price she was willing to pay. But as the energy crackled, she felt her grip begin to wane. The question loomed, the consequences of her choice whispered through the void. Will she sacrifice everything, or will the shadows take her son? In that split second, everything vanished, leaving a chilling question hanging in the air. What would Laura do when the final moment arrived? The light burned bright, blinding Laura as if she had been thrust into another realm. Time seemed to stretch, but her instincts screamed it was all happening too fast. She could feel the cold tightening around her, its fingers reaching greedily for her, for Tommy, for Jake. "Laura!" Tommy's voice broke through the haze, a lifeline amidst the chaos. "Fight, damn it! Don't let them take you." She blinked, forced herself to focus, but the faces of the children flooded her vision, twisting in a grotesque dance of desperation and lust. "Help us. Forever with us." Their words slithered into her mind, a cold chill that felt like ice spreading from her heart to her very bones. With a surge of force, she pushed back, the light from the seal pulsating with her will, the chaos swirling around her like a storm. "No. I'm not afraid of you," she shouted, a chant against the encroaching darkness, clenching her fists for strength. The shadows recoiled slightly, their laughter turning into anguished shrieks, a cacophony that clawed at her sanity. "Let us in. Let us take the pain." The influence of Jake's visage lingered in her mind, mixing with the horrifying cries, the terrible yearning pulling her, threatening her resolve. Her breath quickened, each inhalation tasting like copper and smoke. "I need to save you, Jake." Tommy was still struggling, trying to defend her against the unearthly pull of the dark. "We can't let them win. We have to destroy the seal." His voice was desperate but strong, cutting through the noise. "But how?" The seal, its power throbbed like the pulse of a heart, each beat resonating with the sinister energy of the shadows. It was both a beacon and a trap, the promises of safety laced with danger. With a frantic thought, Laura glanced back at Tommy, locking eyes for a moment. She felt a flicker of understanding. They needed to do this together. On three. We have to break this together. Together he nodded, his eyes fierce, the resolve bubbling up. 1, 2. The laughter grew louder, a dreadful harmony swelling in the room around them. 3. They lunged toward the seal, hands outstretched like a desperate prayer. Energy crackled, the air thick with uncertainty. A shockwave erupted from the seal, crashing into them, throwing them backward like ragdolls. For a terrifying instant, Laura considered the potential cost. Would it tear her from her son? Each heartbeat felt like a ticking time bomb. She fought past the blackness that tried to swallow her. Then it hit her, she didn't have to choose between light and dark to fight. Rising to her feet and shaking off the cobwebs of fear, she shouted, "Jake! I'm coming!" Her words echoed through the void. And with them came a profound power, erupting from deep within her, igniting the familiar bond of love that defied the despair surrounding them. The seal exploded with a blinding flash, consuming the shadows, as their anguished wails crescendoed into a singular, heart-wrenching note. Laura reached through the chaos with an urgency she hadn't known until now, her will unyielding. But every ounce she summoned felt like it was ripping her apart. Tommy grasped her hand, his grip strong and steady, but just as the shadows convulsed, threatening to envelop them entirely, a chilling voice flickered in their minds a final warning. "You cannot fight fate." The room began to warp, the shimmering edges of reality bending like a twisted mirage. Something primal clawed at the edges of her consciousness, battling for dominance. As the seal collapsed under the combined force of Laura's love and determination, a gaping maw opened in the darkness, revealing a rift that pulsed with the weight of unbearable sadness. A shriek pierced the air like broken glass. And then silence, stretched thick as a stifling fog. They stood on the precipice of a decision, the final moment hanging like a pendulum. "Laura." Tommy's voice broke the stillness, the fear palpable. "What are we facing?" The question loomed heavy, blood-chilling. What awaited them on the other side? With resolve, Laura took a step forward into the unknown. Grasping their fate in trembling hands. Would love conquer the darkness, or would it seal their very doom? The rift whispered promises of reunion, and from its depths, a new pair of anguished eyes emerged. Mommy. Could she save Jake before it was too late? The darkness trembled, waiting for her answer. Laura's heart hammered in her chest like a violent drum, each beat echoing the dread that twisted around her guts. The rift yawned before them, a black opening that dripped with shadowy essence, pulsating like a living thing. She felt the familiar pull of yearning, the voice of her child calling, a siren song of despair and hope. Tommy moved closer, his breath quick and shallow. "We can't hesitate." Whatever's in there, he paused, locking eyes with her, a world of emotion swirling between them. "We need to be ready. We need each other." "Together," she echoed, but the word felt tentative, as if the very air around them might shatter the moment it left her lips. Laura knew the stakes. This could be the last step in her fight to bring Jake back, but what if it cost them everything? The darkness stirred, an unseen predator gliding just beyond the edges of their vision. Whispers coiled around them, slithering like tendrils of smoke, laughing softly, mockingly. "Join us, join the eternal dance," she shivered, thoughts racing. "If we go in there, what if it tries to take us too?" Tommy squeezed her hand tighter, searching her eyes. "We'll fight it, just like we've fought before. We're stronger than this." His voice was steady, but she could see the flicker of doubt in his gaze. With a deep, steadying breath, she stepped closer to the rift, the air thick and heavy, like plunging into icy water. "Jake!" she shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. "I'm coming. Hold on." Through the gaping maw, she could see shifting shapes, a kaleidoscope of twisted silhouettes of children, their forms flickering like candle flames, both beautiful and torturous. "Help us," they sang, "stay with us, never leave." Her thoughts went back to Jake, his laughter, the warmth of his little hand in hers. "I can't let them win," she whispered, forcing her fear into resolve. "We can bring him back." The rift shuddered, and a gust of wind rushed from the darkness, chilling her to the bone. Tommy stepped forward, fortifying her resolve. "On 3, let us jump." "Wait!" she exclaimed suddenly, a terrible thought striking her. What if? But before she could finish, the world around them shifted, and the air thickened with presence, as if the space was alive and writhing. "Do not go," and the voice slithered into her mind, cold and menacing. "There is nothing for you there." Laura's blood ran cold. This was the thing in the shadows. It didn't want them to enter. "We have to," she forced out, the words sticking in her throat. "Jake needs us." "Love is weakness," it taunted, a sinister lull that echoed around her. "It will be your downfall." A sharp pain jolted through her hand where Tommy held on. "Come on," he shouted, determination flaring in his eyes. "Now!" In a single moment, they leaped together into the rift, the darkness swallowing them whole as they screamed, falling through a tunnel of despair and dreams, into the unknown. The silence of the void enveloped them, leaving the echo of Jake's name hanging like a ghost in the air around them. Suddenly, blinding light erupted, illuminating the canyons of shadows. Fragments of memories danced past, glimpses of her son laughing. Then, a haunting voice sliced through, "Welcome home." In that instant, reality rippled, and the world shuddered violently. What awaited them on the other side? Would they find salvation or become another whisper in the dark? In the murky depths, dark figures shifted. "Join us," they beckoned, stretching out their hands. Laura instinctively took a step back, pulling Tommy closer. "No. We're here to save Jake." The shifting figures halted, a chilling laughter vibrating through the air. It was too quiet, too still, their forms freezing in anticipation. Then prepare for the ultimate sacrifice. In that terrible moment, Laura realized with a sinking heart, sacrifice wouldn't just be for her son, it might be for them all. Would they pay the ultimate price to reclaim what they lost? The shadows encircled them, tightening with a hunger that threatened to consume. What was the cost of love? What waited beyond this point of no return? Light blasted away the shadows, revealing their surroundings. They stood in a nightmarish realm. Silken cobwebs, thick as ropes, hung from gnarled, twisted trees that loomed ominously, their bark as black as the void they just escaped. Each tree seemed to reach for them, fingers hungry and desperate. The air was thick, pressing down on them like a physical weight. "Where?" Tommy's voice faltered, his courage slipping as he surveyed the surreal landscape. "Is this real?" Laura whispered, disbelief swirling inside her. She could sense the ominous presence of the figures in the periphery, their forms more defined now, faces twisted in anguish, their eyes hollow like open graves. Their laughter echoed again, a sharp sound that sliced through the mist, chilling Laura to the bone. "You came to save one, but what will you lose? Come play with us." Tommy stepped forward, dragging Laura. "No. We're here for Jake. We're not playing." The figures flinched, the laughter morphing into shrieks of rage. A gust of wind whipped their hair, tossing it about like a tornado. The ground pulsed beneath them, echoing with the cries of the forsaken. "Jake!" Laura called out again, her voice cracking. "I'm here. We're here to bring you back." "What if he doesn't want to come back?" Tommy pleaded, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if he is happy here?" "No." The denial surged through her. He can't be, but she could feel a creeping doubt, nibbling at the edges of her resolve. The scene surrounding them twisted, revealing fleeting images of Jake, his eyes alight with joy as he played in a field, a smile wide enough to warm the coldest hearts. "Join us," the voices drifted, silky and smooth. "Stay with him forever, stop it." She screamed, hands clenching into fists. "You're lying." Each heartbeat drummed in her ears, the noise almost overwhelming. Despair clawed at her like a savage beast. As if in response, the ground beneath them trembled violently. Shadows cocooned them, swirling tighter like a vice. Laura could sense it drawing nearer, ready to snatch them away. "Let go of us." One figure stepped closer, its face momentarily illuminated. It was Jason, a boy from Jake's school just like Jake but with dark, empty eyes. "I was happy here," he said, his voice seductive, dripping with false promise. "Why don't you try?" "No." Tommy shouted, his hand gripping her tighter. "We can't give in. Fight it," he urged, his eyes flashing with defiance. "We came for Jake. Nothing else matters." As he spoke, Laura felt an electric charge in the air. The shadows pulsed, the ground shook. An otherworldly roar reverberated through the apparition-infested landscape. "You cannot leave. You belong to us now." Suddenly, the darkness receded, revealing a flickering doorway in the distance. A ghostly light surged around it, calling to them like a beacon of hope. Somehow, it felt wrong, almost a cruel joke of fate. "Jake!" She shouted again, desperation flooding through her veins. Tommy met her gaze, and for a fleeting moment, she saw a glimmer of hope. "We move together, all right? No matter what happens." But the haunted chorus began once more, their voices a chaotic symphony of temptation. "Sacrifice your bond, stay with us, never leave." Terror pierced her heart. Did she even know the cost of the promise they were about to make? With every step towards that distant light, questions spiraled in her mind: would they find Jake? Or would they lose themselves to the shadows forever? The figures swelled around them again, whispers heavy with hunger. Choose, and just then, a cold realization gripped her stomach, freezing her heart. If they stepped through that door, what awaited them could be more terrifying than the monsters that followed. Could they face whatever lay beyond? Or had they already made the choices that would seal their fate? Time hung suspended in the eerie darkness, leaving them dangling on the edge of the unknown. Which would they choose, light or darkness? Laura's heart raced as the whispers merged into a chilling prophecy, slithering through her consciousness like a venomous serpent. "Choose," they urged, the chorus of voices in unison, echoing promises and threats that fused into a singular, menacing command. "Jake, I'm coming," she shouted, though doubt clawed at her insides like a feral beast. Every inch closer to the flickering doorway felt like an inch deeper into a mire of despair. The figures encircled them, laughter transforming into sharp cries, pressing against her as if to anticipate her move. "Stick together," Tommy yelled, holding her hand tighter, but even he couldn't hide the tremor in his voice. Together, they pressed on, hearts pounding with each step taken toward uncertainty. With every thoughtful glance toward the doorway, Laura could feel its pull, the light seeming to shimmer with warmth and neglect at once. Whatever was on the other side, it demanded sacrifice. The very thought rooted her in place, icy fear whispering insidiously in her ear. "Mommy! Help me!" The cry echoed through the abyss, and Laura's heart lurched. It was Jake. His voice shattered the dark veil that enclosed her. But the figures surged in, their obscured faces twisting in fury, shrieks of rage reverberating off the very ground beneath her. "You will not take him!" Tommy yelled against it, a raw determination in his eyes. "We can't let them win." Beside him, Laura clung to the inner fire of her love for Jake, forcing herself through the terror that threatened to swallow her whole. "Tommy, we can't give in." The thought of losing her son fueled her conviction. She felt the stir of shadows all around her, sharp as knives. The figures began to dance, weaving in and out like a nightmare come to life, and Laura felt herself pulled toward them. "Join us. Forever." Their voices mocked, and she faltered for a terrifying breath. But deep down, she knew it was a lie. The love she harbored for Jake overpowered fear, forging a fierce resolve within her. Fight! Tommy urged again, pulling her back as the shadows writhed, desperate to consume them both. We have to push through. Jake! She called once again, desperation echoing through her. Suddenly, from the chaos, a flickering light blazed in the distance, a whisper of hope against the suffocating darkness. The doorway shimmered, alive with the promise of reunification. Would this be the salvation or their ruin? It felt wrong, yet exhilaration coursed through Laura. That's it! She shouted, her voice quaking but resolute. Together, they sprinted toward the light, adrenaline flooding her veins. But the figures coiled like a vengeful snake, their hands reaching out, clawing at the air. Stay with us, give yourself. They chanted, their cries swelling into a tempest of dark enchantment around them. Stay strong. Don't look back. Tommy shouted, his breath a shallow gasp, determination gleaming in his eyes. They broke through the mist, gaping into the bright, blinding light of the doorway. Jake! She called once more, bringing Tommy into the warmth of that which could either save them or seal their fate once and for all. As they stepped through, time shifted violently, crashing around them like waves against a shore. Just then, a seismic blast of force enveloped her. They'll not let go of you, leave it. The shadows thundered, hurling cold despair at her trembling heart as the light began to pulse with familiar energy. Mommy, help me! The fragile plea drifted from everywhere and nowhere all at once, demandingly clear. Would they have to pay the ultimate price? In that climactic heartbeat, sharp realization struck Laura. The cost would be their essence, their reality. To fight for Jake meant confronting her own darkness. Tommy! She shouted over the uproar, her voice steadying. We have to face the truth. With a flicker of understanding, she turned her resolve toward the chaos, her heart echoing Jake's name, a promise wrapped in fierce love. This was her moment. The light pushed against the shadows, illuminating the room, revealing her determination for every trapped soul that had suffered for far too long. To you, my child, I pledge all that I am. Laura declared, as the darkness began to retreat, drawn away by the fierce light of her love. Suddenly, the bond was there, tangible and fierce against the chaos, a singular focus where their hearts merged, crystallizing hope. Jake! They surged together into the light, crashing through the last barrier of shadow, to where hope and love rippled. Mommy! The voice echoed, clearer now, amidst the swirling tempest of shadows. The figures that had once taunted began to shrink back, caught in the force of Laura's unwavering love. Through the brilliance, Laura spotted her son, illuminating joy radiating from his face. They were free. The weight of despair was lifted, shadows trembling as the laughter began to dissolve. And at that moment, love conquered. Light burst, swirling triumphant and bright, retrograding the whispers back into their own abyss. Each flicker revealed children no longer haunted, no longer in pain, freed into the light. Laura ran forward, arms open wide. Jake! She cried, embracing her son. Tears streamed, a cocktail of relief and joy flooding through her. As they locked eyes, warmth washed over them, solidifying their bond, unbreakable. Behind them, Tommy stood in quiet awe, knowing that he too had fought alongside something far beyond himself. And in that second, within that blinding light, they understood, together, they had woven a tapestry of love strong enough to pierce through darkness, ushering forth a new dawn, leaving the shadows behind forever. As they turned to walk into the warmth, the echoes of laughter danced in the air, a reminder of the trials undertaken and the light of hope regained. Together, they stepped forward into their reality, hand in hand, ready to face whatever awaited them as a family. And you know, what a journey it has been. Now, if you've enjoyed this wild ride, you need to subscribe immediately to this channel. You don't want to miss out on our next exclusive stories that are waiting to unfold. Smash that like button now to help us feed the algorithm. Every click counts, and it means the world to us. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, theories, and reactions about the ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans can help us keep growing. So let us keep this community strong. Your support is what drives us forward.